I'm Julian Minnesone. The Titans are already making moves before the trade deadline, and there are more to come. We'll talk about it.
I'm Tyler Rowland, and you can call it making moves. I'm calling it tanking.
I'm Brad Hopkins, and the Tennessee Titans were part of a record-making performance this weekend. We'll talk about it.
Tighten up. It's the Titans Squad. Everything Tennessee Titans every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Music City, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Squad up. The Titans Squad Show starts now.
And welcome to the Titans Squad Show. I'm Julian Minnesone, joined by my friends Tyler Rowland and Brad Hopkins. Thank you for joining us. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And one thing on this team, none of us are getting traded anytime soon, but can't say the same for the Tennessee Titans. They've made some moves already, trading away Roger McCreary. We'll talk about that and other moves that they can make before next week's trade deadline, as well as Cam Ward's performance this past weekend and the loss to the Colts, maybe some questionable coaching decisions, and then, of course, Tighten Up versus Tighten Down, one of our favorite segments every week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Get your comments in the chat. Any questions you have, we'll do our best to answer them. But, fellas, I did want to start with the news of yesterday. Titans trading away cornerback Roger McCreary and a conditional 6th-round pick to the LA Rams in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick. Your guys' initial reaction. We'll start with Tyler on this one.
I mean, I'm not shocked. He's one of the only guys on the team that actually would have value to another team. We talk about like, oh, the Titans should trade this guy and trade this guy, and I see it in the comments all the time, and it's like, well, you can't get rid of something that nobody wants. You know, that's not how a trade works. So, you know, just because you're mad because player X didn't play well, trade him. Well, the other team saw that he didn't play well too, so I always find that funny that that's the reaction. But at the end of the day, this team is not going anywhere. They're 1-7. They know it. The writing is on the wall. And McCreary is a guy who doesn't fit what they're looking for stylistically in a cornerback going forward because of his short arms, his lack of versatility. He's a slot-only guy, you know. So there are many reasons for it. And I feel like I say this every week, but a lot of the anger about this trade is just the team sucks and I'm mad. That's basically what we see with everything at this point, no matter what they do. You know, the Titans could cure cancer and people would be angry because it's the Titans, you know, like, and they're 1-7 and it's not good. It's just the way that it works. But the reality is this trade made a ton of sense. He's on the last year of his contract. He doesn't fit the mold of what they want at cornerback going forward. You probably shouldn't pay him what he's going to get paid when you're in the position the Titans are in. So, you know, I wish the team was better and they didn't have to make a move like this. But they're not, and this is what they should be doing with players who are not going to be back next year, whether it's their contract is up, like a Chikakonkwo and Arden Key, or whether it's a player who they intend to cut, maybe like a Calvin Ridley or something like that, you know? So I'm really just not that upset about this. I'm frustrated by the season, but this move always made sense.
Yeah, I'm just numb to it all. I mean, at this point, you got a 5th-round pick. If the goal is to build draft equity, maybe that's for the next guy who's going to be the head coach to take full advantage of. But at this point, you know, finding any sort of player that has life in them and trading them away, to me, just, you know, I mean, what are you getting for that? So at the end of the day, the fortunes don't change. It doesn't change their mentality in the locker room. It doesn't make them more competitive. It doesn't salvage this season. You know, I guess it's just looking down the road. But we can continue to look down the road, you know, for the rest of the season. And it doesn't make anybody feel better about this 2025 season. So it's not getting any better. Them trading Roger McCreary doesn't all of a sudden give you this, you know, the objective of a foundational piece that all of a sudden makes sense. Like, oh, okay, now we're heading down the right track. I don't think that anybody thinks that this move is the thing that's all of a sudden, you know, brings some sort of realization, you know, or levity to the current situation. So I'm just not impressed, and it is what it is.
Yeah, you know, with Brownlee gone, Snead on IR, and now Roger McCreary gone, you will get a lot more Marcus Harris now, which I guess is, if you're looking to develop young guys and see what they can do and just throw them out there and try to squeeze whatever you can out of them at the end of the season through the rest of the way. Might be tough sledding, but at least you can see what you have in him moving forward. I know the Titans, Chad Brinker, had talked about getting 12 top 100 picks over the next 3 years. This past draft, they had technically 4. Gunner was 103. I don't know if you want to round that up and give them 5 on that front. And while this trade does not give you a top 100 pick, it does lead to, as Tyler said, the tank job, which gets you maybe a higher draft pick, and then maybe you could use that to swing more draft capital. What do you anticipate over the next week happening as far as more trades? Because you mentioned Arden Key, maybe Draymond Jones, Jihad Ward, guys like that. It seems like everything is on the table for this team.
Well, one thing that I like to mention, and people don't want to hear it because they're just mad about, everything. That's just the way that it is right now when your team's 1-7. But it's not just about the individual picks that you're getting either. It's about the possibilities. You know what I mean? Like, this is everybody had that buddy, or maybe I just come from a place where these people are more likely to pop up than others. But everybody had that buddy who got paid, and the next day he's got a new outfit, he's got new shoes, he's got a new chain, he might have got him a bottle of something, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day after that, he's broke again. It's a quick come up and you're excited. Well, the real way to manage your money is to parlay your money into other things. You take a little bit of money from this, you take a little bit of money from this, you're able to save up, you're able to make a bigger purchase. The Titans aren't just going to use these individual picks as the pick that they are. They have the ability to package them with other picks. So you're saying, oh, this didn't get them a top 100 pick. Well, yeah, now they can take their 5th round pick that they got back that was theirs all along. They can pair that with a 6th round pick, and maybe they move back up into the 4th. And I remind everybody, last year, the Titans had 3 4th round picks because they were able to move around in the draft, and they got Alec Iomanor, and they got Chim DK, and they got Gunnar Helm, some of the best bright parts of this team. So I guess when people look at it, they're like, oh, we gave up a late 6th round pick in McCreary to get a top 5 pick in the 5th round back. What's a top 5 pick in the 5th round? But it's about the possibilities of what you can do and how you can move around the board. So I think when we talk about these guys who need to be traded next or that could be traded next, you're not going to get back a 3rd, 4th round pick. You're not going to get a top 100 selection for an Arden Key or a Draymond Jones. And people are going to look at the individual pick and be like, well, that sucks. Yeah, but they have the chance to go into the draft with 10 or 11 picks, and then they can move around and maybe get back into the top 100 for a targeted player that they're very interested in. It just gives them more possibilities to move around. So, yeah, you look at the trades. I don't think that they're going to get anything, super back in these trades, but Arden Key as a 3rd rusher for a team, that's his best role. Not a lot of money left in his deal. Won't be tough to make that move financially. Same thing. Draymond Jones is on a 1-year contract, folks. He came here as a mercenary, and he's heated up the last few weeks with 3 straight games with a sack. He's a guy who could probably help somebody. Jihad Ward, he was picked up off the scrap heap. It's not like all these teams around the NFL all of a sudden think Jihad Ward's good because he shined in his opportunities on the Titans. But I think Arden Key, Draymond Jones, the big name that could actually net something is Calvin Ridley. And there's been some whispers that he would be available, but you wonder with his injury status, is that even going to be a possibility? Is he healthy enough to be traded? You do wonder that. But yeah, I just want to keep people's minds focused. This isn't, we're going to get a great pick back that we're going to keep and use. It's just you need more ammo so you can take more shots. And when the Titans have as many holes as they do right now, they need a 10, 11 player draft class. They need to be able to move around and fill specific needs. So that's why you'll see more players get traded. I think at least one more player before the deadline.
I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference, honestly. I mean, we're talking about the top 100 being the goal, right? Well, the 3 4th round picks that the Titans have that are now in the starting rotation, none of those guys were in the top 100.
Right.
So I just think it's really obviously how you develop these rosters and how you find guys that make a difference. But at the end of the day, they're not going to make an immediate splash impact unless you get some super rook. First round takes care of itself. 2nd round, that's just below a 1st rounder. But where you really make your hay is in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, finding stability, finding depth, and then ultimately these guys turn into somebody that you either make the choice to pay once they get them with their rookie contract, or the writing was on the wall. They just never really developed anything. So at the end of the day, we'll see exactly what Chad and what Mike have in store for this franchise moving forward, coupled with whatever free agents they can find at the end of the season that would want to be a part of this team. And I agree with you 100%, about Calvin Ridley. I mean, at this point, with the season that he's had so far and the injuries, what kind of value would he actually even bring to the table? to make that much of a difference moving forward. So if you're talking about stacking chips for 5th and maybe 6th rounders, then that might be something that raises some eyebrows. But at the end of the day, trying to fix this year, it just seems like it's just past. It's not even worth even trying to do.
Yeah, not everybody could be a first rounder like the beast Brad Hopkins we got on here. Bona fide first round pick, baby. You're my first round pick, Brad.
And to that point, B-Hop, you spent your entire career with the organization. So you didn't have to deal with a trade, but you had guys in the locker room that one day they're there and the next day they're not. So from a player's perspective, what's that locker room feeling like right now where pretty much at any moment a guy could get a call and the guy next to you is gone?
For the most part, I think we had a culture that people wanted to be a part of. When you're dealing with this dysfunctional situation where you're not really sure about leadership, you're not really sure how competitive the team wants to be under the current regime, all these things, it's like a trade. It's like, man, you made it, you got out of here. You know what I mean? Versus, man, this really sucks. I really like playing with you guys. That was always the difference for us. It's like if guys came or went, it was like they were either happy to get to us because they were a part of a culture that we believed in ourselves. We had an identity. Or it was like some guys that were leaving were like, man, this really sucks. I really don't want to leave you guys because we're building something, because we have something here that's special, that's fun. And that wasn't just in those years that we were going to the playoffs either. It's just how we viewed each other as a family, as a unit, so the whole trade situation. I remember one time, like we get a guy like a Marion Butts or a Wilbur Marshall or somebody next to, it's like, oh, this guy's really contributing. And he's been a huge part of what we're doing, but he never was asked to come in, even in that trade, and all of a sudden reinvent what we already were. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of strange how the trade situation works out. I mean, sometimes I guess new faces create new opportunities and you get something out of that. But for the most part, when you are a tight-knit unit like the ones that I played on, it just really didn't make that much sense. But we did get some good guys that ultimately, like Kevin Carter. I love Kevin Carter, man. Kevin he's one of my best friends. And, had it not been, I don't think we traded for him, but either way, just getting guys that were of that value on the roster that could help contribute and make us better, that always makes sense.
Make sure you guys keep your comments coming in. We'll answer questions throughout the show. Adrian Pounds, 7405 says, why is everyone focused about next year? This is having a lot of fans give up. We could still win a little bit more.
I mean, can they? I guess like some fans just live in I am not, me as a human being, my default setting is pessimism. I am not an optimistic person. Football, life, it doesn't matter. I'm not. Most people are either optimistic or pessimistic in nature, and I am a pessimist. So I lean towards they can't win a little bit more, even if they try. But I understand not wanting the season to be flush, but Adrian, at some point you got to look at what the team is doing and recognize the reality here. It's raining outside. You may not want to put up your umbrella, but you need to because it's raining outside, even if you don't want it to rain. So the Titans season is, for all intents and purposes, it's over for a winning perspective. What the season has been about from the start, and now it's just hammered home, is it's about the development of the young players and releasing Tyler Lockett and maybe getting Marcus Harris in the lineup more with Roger McCreary out. That is the type of stuff that they need to see now. And Mike McCoy really leaned into that at his press conference yesterday, trying to hype up that Cam Ward has played better in his last couple of games. Because I would imagine behind the scenes when he got the job, they said, your number one mission is to make Cam Ward not look so bad, because that makes everything look bad and ruins the hope for the fan base. So I understand you not wanting to give up on the season, you wanting to see more wins, but I got to tell you, whether they tanked or they didn't tank, I didn't think that they were going to get many more wins this year anyways. Like, there's only a couple of spots on the schedule where you could look and say the Titans can realistically upset this team. And when it's like that, you got to do what's right and get rid of guys who aren't going to be back next year and try to get something in return for them. So I understand the frustration, but you also have to live in reality too.
Yeah, one of my clients, is a urologist, and we were talking last night, and he asked me, like I get asked a lot during the week, so what do you think about this year's Titans? Followed by a little giggle, because you can kind of guess what my response is going to be, given the fact that this team isn't playing very well, right?
Right.
And I told him that normally, because I am a player and I will always be a player, I have to maintain a level of optimism because that's the way football is. Football is just like the stock market. You know what I mean? You have these ebbs and flows and ups and downs, and you got to be able to weather those and project towards the future. So that way you have some sort of levity, right? It was hard being optimistic. It was hard saying that this team can find a way. I'm looking at everybody that they're playing this year, and it does seem like the teams that were on the schedule that seemed beatable heading into the season are tons better. And it's because they're developing their rosters better than we are. But why does it seem like guys are wide open? Why does it seem like guys are making open field tackles? Why does it seem like, the quarterbacks that we're facing now have just been dropping dimes on us? I mean, I don't understand how it seems like the teams that we're playing have gotten so much better, but we're stuck in the mud. And that's what it ultimately comes down to. It comes down to discipline and effort, right? And when you don't have either, you don't have much of a team. So when a team continues to shoot itself in the foot, when it continues to not be in the positions, places that it's supposed to be functional, be successful, it's frustrating, And of course, I think that lends into the lack of effort that we see sometimes because guys are just like giving their hands up, like, what are we doing out here, I mean, almost like I know we're going to get into a little bit later, that sideline caption of Cam asking Mike, what the is going on? I mean, it's like, in the middle of the game, you're asking this question. Does that show that I have the confidence in you that you're the right person to lead us and do whatever it's like? No, absolutely not. Because in that moment, it's like he's asking for something. He's asking us. I mean, to go for it in that situation, it just showed, hey, look, I don't have the confidence that you're going to do it because you couldn't do it in the first 3 downs. So why would I expect you to be able to do it and give them the ball back on their forward side of the 50-yard line? I can see the decision there. But at that point, you know what? You need something to happen because you convert that first down. Next thing you know, it's like, hey, we put together a consistent drive. We stayed on the field just a little bit longer than we had been for the previous series. So let's make this happen. But not giving the team a chance, I can understand why that can be frustrating for a player. But I can also understand from a coaching staff, it's like, dude, y'all keep screwing up out here. You guys are not in the right positions. You guys aren't doing the things that we're doing during the week. Are we having good weeks of practice to where that translates into us doing things well on Sunday? We've got to ask ourselves that because the game isn't won and lost on Sunday. It's never won and lost on Sunday. It's one during the week, where you're putting together a confident game plan. You're running those things consistently. So that way they work on Sunday. It's practicing those things that make it more efficient. But when you don't see the results of anybody's labor during the week making a hill of beans, then it just leads to a frustrating situation overall.
And to Tyler's point, it has been raining in Nashville this week, maybe a little indicative of how things are going. Okay, we're going to talk about that Cam Ward situation on the sideline coming up after the break and where he stands right now at this point in the season of the Titan Squad Show. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, everybody. Cam Ward finishes his day 22 of 38, 259 yards with a touchdown and an interception. The way I saw it, guys, it was kind of another mixed bag. How did you guys see Cam Ward's performance on Sunday before we get into the whole sideline debacle, going for it, not going for it?
Well, obviously, ball control is still an issue. We saw a couple of times where the ball snapped right within, catchable distance, and it affected the timing of a play. I'm not going to say that there were moments where I saw, an explosive play here or there, where he actually put the ball where it needed to be, in finding an open receiver. Maybe it's the things that they're asking him to do that just aren't, sexy or making you feel like he's really taking the next step. You know what I mean? I just really kind of see the same performance week in and week out. There might be a little flash of something that says, this is our guy. I'm not going to say he's not. But at the end of the day, he isn't surrounded by enough star power to make a difference. It doesn't seem like he's getting the coaching right now that all of a sudden make you feel like, man, this is our next Jaden Daniels. This is our next, Bo Nix, our next whoever. It just doesn't seem like this is that guy, but maybe it's because of the situation that he's in himself. In other words, what would Andy Reid do with Cam Ward? What would Jim Harbaugh do with Cam Ward? What would some of these other aficionados of offense and that we see work with young players do with Cam Ward's skill set? How different is that from what he's actually experiencing now? Those are the questions I have to ask myself, because I do believe that he's capable, just not consistent. And that's where we are right now.
That is 100% what I would say. Capable, not consistent is what I saw on the tape. I mean, he had some electric throws on the tape, like 5 or 6 throws that were just unbelievable throws, like just crazy. The one right before halftime that really got him down the field to Alec Iomanor, he throws over 2 jumping linebackers in between 2 safeties, just an absolute rocket down the field. So it's like, I can see what could make him special going forward, but the consistency isn't there, and the consistency for me is in reading the defense, because I found a few plays as well, and these kind of plays are more disappointing to me than the fumbles or the fourth quarter, you're down by 1 million and you're trying to force it into the end zone on a seam route and it gets intercepted. Like these plays that I'm about to talk about are more disappointing to me, but there were quite a few examples where he had guys and he didn't throw it and he went into sacks. I thought it was telling that, and listen, Pro Football Focus charting isn't everything. It's not the end-all, be-all. It's just part of the story. There's no one overarching thing that we can lean on. But they only attributed 1 of the 4 sacks to the offensive line, running backs, and tight ends. That means, now, one of them was a coverage sack, but at least 2 of the sacks are, Cam, you're not throwing it to an open guy. You're trying to escape the pocket after you miss the open guy, and now you're taking a sack. And that's what people talk about when they say you ruin a rookie quarterback, is they're so worried about the pressure and so worried about getting sacked that they don't see open stuff. And there's one where there's an out route, there's an in route over the middle of the field, and I'm looking at the end zone angle, and he's staring at it, and he doesn't throw it. There's one off of play action where there's a scissors concept with Van Jefferson going a little deeper and Chim DK going a little underneath, and they're both open, and he doesn't throw it, and he escapes the pocket, and he gets sacked, and it's like, capable, not consistent. And listen, rookie quarterbacks are not going to see everything perfectly, but some of these are like pretty simple. They're there. It's open. You're looking at it. Why isn't the ball out? And all we can ask is Cam, maybe there's a guy in front of him. He thinks he's going to tip the pass. Maybe he just thought the defender was closer and could close the gap and make the play. You'd have to ask him directly on the individual plays, and we're never going to get that kind of access. I mean, maybe somebody can get him in the film room one day, Brad. That seems like a former player walking through the halls asking questions type deal. But I know they're not going to let me sit down with Cam Ward with the clicker and go over the film and pick his brain. Like, that's not going to happen. But I think capable, not consistent is a perfect way to describe it at this moment in time, because some of the throws that he did make in that game were ridiculous. And again, you look at his numbers. Over the last 2 games, he has been better. The completion percentage has been way up. The yards per attempt has been way up. The yards per game has been way up. So it's like he's getting more consistent and getting more comfortable and making more of the flash plays that get you excited about him. But some of these things that have to be cleaned up, the ball handling stuff, seeing the defense and seeing your players and getting the ball out of your hands, those things still need to get better. And you can tell sometimes now that his clock has been sped up in a major way to where he actually misses some guys sometimes because he's so hurried to get to the check down because it's been drilled in his head can't take sacks, get the ball out, get it to the check down. And I saw at least 2 plays where he missed open guys earlier in the progression because he was like, oh, got to get to the check down and get it to the check down. So, like, finding the balance between all of that is going to be tough to do for him this year, especially with the environment that he's in. But consistent or capable, not consistent, is truly the best way to describe his play this year.
I honestly think it's really about coverage and predictability. Is the coverage so good that no one can get open initially? And is it so predictable what the offense is running that they take away Cam's first read and make him hold on to the football? I saw the same thing you did, Tyler. I'm like, there he is right there. He's running the speed out right there. He's right there. I mean, there was one on the goal line there. If he threw the gunner helm immediately when he was open on that scissor concept you're talking about, that's 6. Yep. But holding on to the football then does create that pressure. But what is it? I mean, is he not seeing the field in totality? Is he not seeing that first read? Or he's not just confidently believing he can let it go, that it wouldn't be picked off or he couldn't make the throw? So coverage and predictability are things that are coming up to me because either our receivers are getting locked down, you know what I mean, to where they just can't get separation, or it's so obvious the concepts that we're running offensively that they're taking that first read away from him because they know where he's going with the football initially, and they're making him go to 2 and 3, and ultimately end up putting pressure on him, and he either gets sacked or he ends up having to scramble, or the play is just not successful, creating a 3rd and long type situation that almost is never going to be converted.
I think all of that's true. I think everything that we have said here is true. I think, there were multiple circumstances where the Colts just had the perfect coverage called for what the Titans are doing. They're running a 3-level flood concept to the sideline with short, intermediate, and deep options. And the Colts run an inverted cover, too, where they have a guy in the flat. They have a hook defender bending out to take the intermediate. They have the deep half to take away the deep route. Like, there are a lot of examples on tape throughout the season where the defense just calls the perfect coverage for what the Titans are about to run. And listen, some of this is higher level than I'll ever be. Like, I'm never going to have an NFL coach level understanding of the film and tendencies and patterns and stuff like that. Like, that's just the truth. I can't get there to Albert Einstein level, but like, that has to be a tendencies thing. That has to be, hey, on second in this distance, they often call a 3-man flood concept to the left sideline. We're going to run this coverage that's going to take that away. And it's just so often that the defense schematically is immediately ready for what the Titans are having to run, that I can only surmise from that the Titans are predictable because defenses are calling the perfect. This is how it works, folks. The Titans have certain things that they like, and the defense knows that they like those. And they say, hey, this coverage will take away that. And now it's about deploying it at the right time. I know that rock beats paper, or I know that rock beats scissors. But are they going to throw rock, or are they going to throw scissors? Are they going to throw paper? You have to time up your rock, paper, scissors to match up perfectly with what the team is going to do. And you have tape on how often they throw rock and when they throw paper and when they throw scissors. And it's just about intelligent guesses to see if you can guess right and win. That's what football is right there, is can we guess what the other team is going to do schematically and beat them? And sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. And far too often this year, the defense has just guessed perfectly. And at some point, that has to be predictability. Like, I can't know for certain, but it has to be. That's the only logical answer.
That's a great point, because guess what? When you only have 3 options, rock, paper, or scissors, it's not that hard to guess, right? But what if you have rock, paper, scissors, grenade, flamethrower, brick? If you have all these different options, it's less predictable. But also, one other thing real quick, Julian, we talked about last week. When you're behind in the ball game, that makes you more predictable because you're not going to be running the damn football. We know you're not going to be giving us play action, trying to fool us into thinking you're going to run it because you're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So that also dictates the pace. It dictates the play calling because you're trying to get back into the ball game.
On top of the numbers, guys, one of the bigger revealing parts of the game was Titans were facing a 4-3 on Indy's 42. Third quarter, trailing by 10. Mike McCoy decides to punt the ball instead of putting it in his quarterback's hands. Obviously, McCoy has said since then that I regret that decision and we should have gone for it. But on top of just from a football perspective, when you have a young quarterback, I feel like you should just let him go out there, live and die with him, and let him try to make mistakes if you're going to try to develop the kid. What did you guys make of that whole situation there at the start of the third quarter? Because then, of course, You saw what was going to happen. The Colts bust it for 80 yards for Jonathan Taylor the very next play, and you're like, of course it does.
I'm going to try and hold on to this thing just as long as I possibly can. And if that's one more down, so be it. Because at this point, they're just running up and down the dang field. So it didn't matter, right? But it does show a lack of confidence in making a decision to punt. Because it says, hey, look, I don't believe that you can convert this fourth down. You know, I mean, Dan Campbell wouldn't have had a problem doing that at all. He was like, shoot, 4th and 15. Dan's going to go for it, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, I understand being football smart, being situationally smart, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, we're going to get on him about not converting the fourth downs if he keeps going for it and never convert, right? But I think in this instance, it just gives you a little bit of confidence for your team to say, hey, look, I believe that you can do this. Are the numbers stacked against us? Yes, probably, because fourth down conversions are they're not easy and they're really low percentage. But at the end of the day, we're going to go for it anyway because I believe you guys can do it. And if you start doing it every now and then and making them every now and then the team starts believing in themselves and maybe they don't get in as many fourth down situations. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I thought it showed a lack of confidence in the guys.
Yeah, to me, and Cam's reaction coming off, you know, you want to get a lip-reading linguist in there. He said, what the heck are we doing, Mike? Let's go for it, you know, as he's coming off the field. And I think you're right. At this point, you're talking about, you know, how much confidence you have in the offense, but why is there confidence in the defense to stop the Colts at that point either? And it's just, it was instant karma. It was instant karma. You cannot be that conservative when you're the worst team, when you're on the road, when you're already down 10, when you're playing against the best offense in the NFL. That's instant karma. Why do you have confidence in your defense to be able to stop the Colts? Like, I just don't. And they got a net 22 yards because Hecker punts it into the end zone. 22 yards in field position battle. You won to give the ball back to the best offense in the NFL right now when you're down by 10. Like, it just makes no sense. And I'll be honest with you guys. I got a hat on here, but I might need to go grab some tin foil because what I'm about to say next, I understand, is a conspiracy. All right, full-on conspiracy theory here. But is there any chance that they were directed to do that? I want to go to a comment that Mike McCoy made in a press conference, and I brought this up yesterday at the end of my show, little Roland's rant, as I like to call it, at the end of the show. But at one of the press conferences, and Julian, you were probably there, Paul Kaharski. Paul is cantankerous. Everybody knows Paul's a sour guy, but he has some good questions every now and then. And he asked the question of, why is Mike McCoy letting the media talk to players first and then coming out and doing his post-game press conference a little bit later? That is uncommon in the NFL. Usually the head coach talks immediately after, and then you're able to go to the players because you want the head coach to answer the tough questions for the players first. That's his job. Well, they asked Mike McCoy why that's different from every other team and how the Titans have done it forever, and he said, you know, that's what they wanted to do. That was the plan when we talked about me getting the job. That's what they wanted to do. He is literally saying that the Titans have directed him to change the schedule and to come out second. It makes me wonder, are they sitting down for like a PR meeting before the press conference to make sure that Mike McCoy's answers are right and he's going to say what they want him to say? And like, why would you do that? What could be the theory for doing it that way? And it just makes you wonder how much of the Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker thumb is on Mike McCoy. Like, hey, we're going to give you a raise. We're going to give you an opportunity to be the interim head coach, but you're going to do what we tell you to do. And you're going to do it the way that we want you to do it. You know what I mean? So I wonder when I see Bones Fossil and Mike McCoy both sitting next to each other, looking at each other with blank faces on that fourth down with their headsets on, are they being told from somebody upstairs, hey, we're not going for this? You know, I know they have a spotter upstairs who gives them information. It was Tom Jones for Brian Callahan. He's been let go since Callahan was fired. But you just wonder if the directive was, hey, we want you to be as conservative as possible here. Don't put Cam Ward in any bad situations. But well, I know that's a crazy brain theory, but you have to wonder because it makes so little sense to punt that football with where they're at 4th and 3, and you run the ball on 3rd down, which is a clear indicator that you have 2 plays to do this. We're going to see if we can get it on the ground first, and then we'll go to the air on 4th down if we don't get it. That's just classic coaching. So when things like this happen that are so bizarre, and then Mike McCoy is just like, oh, that was my bad. I made a mistake. Sorry. My bad. Made a mistake. It's almost like there's something in the water there. I just don't buy that being a Mike McCoy true decision. And then the next day he's just like, oh, my bad. Shouldn't have done that. Yep, that's my bad. I would have done it different if I could go back. And just, I don't know. My spidey senses are tingling a little bit. I don't know if that is truly what Mike McCoy would have done. I think he might be getting some direction from above.
Last night at the end of the Commanders-Chiefs game, Travis Kelce was on Scott Van Pelt show, and he said something that really resonated with me. He said, we have the leadership and we have the coaching. And why that stood out to me is because I'm trying to figure out which one of the Titans, of those intangibles, do the Titans have. We have leadership, do we have coaching? And the thing is, a leader would be the one to step out first and give you what's going on with the team. These are the minutes. This is what's going down. I'm in control. You're seeing me first. I mean, that automatically right there handcuffs him to say you're not the leader. Okay, the leaders are the guys on the roster. They're the ones that are telling you what's going on. Or maybe that's what you think that we want to hear first, is how the actually game unfolded from the player's perspective and not from the coach's perspective, not from the sideline. And who knew first about this whole coaching change? Mike McCoy or Brian McCarthy? Or Brian
Callahan.
Can't remember the guy's last name anymore.
Long gone.
Callahan. But the point is, did they ask Mike McCoy, hey, Mike, we're going to make a coaching change. It hasn't been announced yet, but we want you to be the interim head coach. And was he prepared for that moment? Or did they go to Brian, fire him first, and then look around and say, hey, who's going to pick up the pieces and lead this thing moving forward? Who knew first about the situation? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I doubt that Mike McCoy in the very beginning of the season thought that he was going to be the coach of this team, making the decisions. So how prepared was he to pick up the pieces and move forward with it? He probably wasn't. Maybe, I mean, at the end of the day, you start talking about hot seat. I'm sure some coaches will look around like, man, this whole staff might not make it through this season. Like, there's going to be some guys, that are coming and going like the trade deadline. But at the end of the day, when it became more of a reality, were they looking at Mike to say, hey, look, if they get rid of Brian, it's going to be you. It's going to be calling the plays and stuff. It's going to be you that's running the team. And was he prepared for that moment? It doesn't seem like it.
No, man. And he even said in his press conferences, Brad, this week, like, I had a lot to do last week. Julian, you've heard him say it. He said it like 3 or 4 times now. I had a lot to do last week. Like, he literally sounds like a guy who's saying, like, I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best, and that's how I feel about Mike McCoy. Like, I do not think that he wanted to be the interim head coach. I think the Titans went to him and said, hey, we're going to give you a big pay raise here. And he's like, all right, well, I'll do half a season before I'm out of here. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are bought in for the future of the team. Like, it doesn't seem like a lot, and how could you be right now when the future is so up in the air for so many people and anybody could be traded at any point in time? No one is invested in the future. And when you don't care what happens going forward, you operate differently. It's just a different level of commitment when you think that there is a future here. So that's a big problem for the Titans now, is how many guys are going to give their best effort and do their best, whether it's coaches, whether it's staff, whether it's players, when hey, I'm probably not going to be here next year, or this season is over. You know what I mean? Like, probably only the young players that they drafted, like Cam and Gunnar Helm and Chim DK, those are the only guys who are going to be truly invested in making sure they do the right things, because they're the only people who know for certain they're going to be around next year.
Man, the Titans have us, they're playing so poorly, they have us asking if aliens exist, basically. That is, it is, what are you doing to my man Tyler over there, Titans? Come on.
We are not alone in the universe.
All right, well, on the other side of the break, we're going to play our favorite segment, Tighten Up versus Tighten Down. And, of course, keep your questions coming. We're going to answer them as much as we can at the end of the show when the Titan Squad Show returns. Keep it here. All right, this could be true for the Titans, too. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress, I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet.com offers a fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. Visit rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to get 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL. And don't forget to use our code LockedOnNFL so they know we sent you. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making some moves. All right, fellas, wanted to play Tighten Up versus Tighten Down. We'll start with Tighten Up here on this Tuesday. Tyler, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what do you want to know? Chim DK, right? Like, we might as well go with the easiest one. 7 catches, 93 yards. He's really established himself as a wide receiving threat when you knew that he would be helpful on special teams early in the year, the way that he's developed into a wide receiver that can make plays happen. And quite frankly, I told you guys there was one play on a short crossing route where Chim DK was wide open. He cooked his man, had an opportunity, and Cam just didn't get the ball to him. So honestly, he could have had an even bigger day. But Chim made a bunch of plays early in the year. He had a touchdown called back on a reverse on offense. He had the touchdown called back on the punt return in week 2. Like, he made some plays that got called back, and you kind of saw flashes. But Chim DK, Gunnar Helm, Io Manor needs to catch the frickin' ball. He had 2 bad drops in this one. But the young weapons on offense look good. They look like contributors, and for being 4th-round picks, you know, you got to be pretty happy with what they can be. Now, I don't think that either of the wide receivers are the bona fide alpha number 1 wide receiver that you need, but Alec Io Manor looks like a solid wide receiver 2-3, and Chim DK can be a solid slot wide receiver 2-3 with speed, and Gunnar Helm is slowly taking it away from Chigakonkwa, which he should with the things that he brings to the table. So I think that in a season full of questions for the Titans, where how do they do this? How are they going to do this? The roster is bad. These many spots. I think we can confidently say that the Titans have 2 good rotational wide receivers and a guy who can be a solid number 1 tight end in a committee approach. And I think those are things that you can lean on with Cam Ward going forward. So my Tighten Up is the rookie weapons, because they continue to show that whether they turn into bona fide stars for the Titans, we will see. But they look like starting level players, and to get all 3 of them in the 4th round, pretty impressive stuff. And I'll let that inspire me and get me excited about what Mike Borgonzi can do going forward. His draft here was pretty solid. Kevin Winston got 20 snaps on defense in this game. I'm going to have a little film breakdown on him later this week, just in the limited snaps that he got. But I think the young players have shown that Mike Borgonzi can hit, and that's why getting extra draft picks for some of these veterans is something that I'm okay with, because I think Mike Borgonzi will do a good job drafting, like he has showed that he did in his only draft so far.
To echo Tyler Rowland,
searching.
You know, I agree with you 100%. I think that whenever you have 4th round picks that are even considered number 2 options, that's showing their development. And we've got 3 of those cats that are actually in the starting rotation that are making a difference. Gunnar Helm, 2 of 3 for 23 yards. We did score a touchdown against the Colts. That's nice. Tajay Spears, man, I like the ball in this kid's hands, whether it's in the pass game, the run game. He does show himself to be explosive. He's averaging the most yards per carry in the backfield with 5.5. Now, that's probably due to the longest run from scrimmage for the Titans this year.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the 3rd round from 2023 has been making a difference when he's healthy. So I really like that. Draymond Jones, I mean, he's had a sack in at least the last 3 games. So, you know, there's some upside there. I'm digging that. But, you know, hey, the bye week being just 2 weeks away, that's probably something I'm looking forward to, just to take a break, you know, from the craziness that we continue to talk about. We can't reinvent ways to show our frustration for this team. So, I mean, I'm going to just say it. Could the Titans win this next weekend? Yes. You know why? Because it's the National Football League. That's the way it is. Talent isn't that much different from team to team to where a team couldn't just put together the right chemistry, the right formula. We've seen undefeated teams lose to teams that were completely dysfunctional. Hell, the Jets got their first win this weekend. You know what I mean? So anything can happen. And that's why I'm going to say, is it probable? Maybe not. But is it possible? Yes. But that's leading into the bye, which the Titans need to break.
As far as my Tighten Up, you know, season high in usage rate for Chim DK, Alec Io Manor, Gunnar Helm, Tajay Spears. This year wasn't just about developing Cam Ward. It was about the other rookies too. And so I think more of that. We talked about the injuries and how more guys are going to play. The trade deadline, you're going to get more young guys in there like a Marcus Harris. So the more to develop those young guys, squeeze what you can out of them for the rest of this season and go into next year and continue to build through the draft like you did, like Mike Borgonzi did this past draft here in 2025. Okay, as far as tighten down, I'm going to go to the run defense here. Because that seems to be consistently inconsistent. Of course, Jonathan Taylor, a huge day. And I know there's no Jeff Simmons, but you could tell from that first play of the game, fellas, they were trying arm tackling Jonathan Taylor, and that was not going to work. And this is a Colts team that up until the game in Indianapolis last year, they played Jonathan Taylor as an organization pretty well. So I'm going to go with the run defense as my tighten down this week.
Really?
That's
they played
fair.
Well? I mean, I thought that Jonathan Taylor set a record for scoring 3 touchdowns the last 3 times, going back to last year that he's played the Tennessee Titans.
Up until the Indy game last year is what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Recently, recently it's gone off the rails, but
Yeah.
prior to that, but again, most of that time was with Mike Vrabel at coach, with edge wall swarm as his philosophy, which is a great run defense philosophy. But I'm with you, Julian. The run defense is bad, but I kind of expected that with the defensive line issues that the Titans are having right now. But really my tighten down on that is where the Titans are healthy, and it's linebacker and safety. I cannot stress to you how bad Cody Barton has played this year. Like, he's slow. He doesn't attack downhill. He can't get off blocks. He's accepting blocks rather than being the aggressor. Cody Barton, and it's disappointing to me because I was very excited about the personality that he brought to the table in the offseason. The mic'd up videos, anytime he speaks on a microphone, showing him, working with the younger linebackers in training camp and stuff. It seemed like such a good fit, an easy guy to root for, all that. But he has been so bad. And let me continue. Amani Hooker. I don't know what's happened, but he has fallen off a cliff. He was good in coverage in this game, in pass coverage, but in run defense, ever since last season, his angles, his diving at legs and not staying in good form, like his run defense is probably the worst of any starting safety in the NFL right now. It is just unbelievable how bad the linebackers and the safeties were in this game in run defense. Wrong lane fills, bad tackle attempts. Like, even going back to that previous game where Jonathan Taylor ran through the defense and broke 5 tackles for the 48-yarder. Like, that's one of the most embarrassing plays of the entire season. And so many safeties and linebackers. I mean, Cedric Gray even had a bad game in this one. He got worked by the Colts offensive line. Now, Gray is still a bright spot this year. Can't be mad at him as the will linebacker. But I'm looking at Cody Barton and Amani Hooker, and I'm like, these are veteran players who, why are they even on the field at this point when they're playing as poorly as you could possibly play? Like, Hooker is more disappointing to me. They just gave him an extension in the offseason, and he has been disgraceful this year. Like, I cannot believe, I've watched him his entire career. I have been a huge fan of Amani Hooker his entire career. Like, I started doing the show the year that he got drafted. So I've seen every single play Amani Hooker's ever made for this team. And I don't know if it's age, if it's buy-in, if it's want to. He's on a bad team, so you don't want to get hurt. No, I don't know what it is, but he is just mentally falling off a cliff when it comes to run defense. And the Titans D-line can be hurt and banged up. And no Jeffrey Simmons and get Sweat back. Sweat had a pretty good game for the most part, but it doesn't matter when your linebacker. Run defense is a full team effort. It's not like the pass rush where a cornerback can make a great play. Like Myles Garrett can have 5 sacks against the Patriots. They still lost by 20, even though Myles Garrett had a historic day. That shows you how team football works here. But, like, I am just perpetually shocked every week by how bad Cody Barton and Amani Hooker are in run defense. It just blows my mind.
It's funny that you say that mentally it seems like Amani Hooker has fallen off, right? Well, tackling is a mentality.
Yes.
It's a mentality. First off, it is technique, being in the right position, right? Come to balance, all the stuff, right, that we coach players to do. But it's also a mentality that you're going to come up and you're going to make a stick and you're going to get somebody on the ground. And when you don't believe that you can confidently do that, that's when we call it shining shoes. Next thing you know, a dude's jumping over you or stiff arming you to the turf and he's getting big plays after contact. which has been a problem for this team. Your guys don't mind showing up, but getting the guy on the ground after the contact, that's the problem. And also, it's also the swarm, right? How many guys are actually getting to the football? You know what I mean? This isn't just a one-on-one type situation. There needs to be a gang tackling. Dudes need to be showing up, holding the ball carrier up so other guys can take shots at knocking that football out, that kind of stuff. We just don't see that confidently happening week in and week out. So that lends to the run defense being so porous, because run defense is exclusively about tackling, because the ball's already in the carrier's hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're in coverage and you're watching the ball come through the air and you can make an interception, get a turnover, make a play on the ball, those kind of things. That thing is not free. It's in someone's possession, and they're doing something with it that you have to stop. And if you can't tackle and get a guy to the ground, that is a problem. And that's why run defense has been such an issue for the Titans this year.
And speed is a problem too, I will say. Sorry, Julian. Like,
you're good.
Xavier Woods, Quandre Diggs, Amani Hooker at this stage of his career, Cody Barton, these guys are slow by NFL standards. Like, Amani Hooker is on the back end. He's not, terrible here, but Xavier Woods is a slow player. Quandre Diggs is near the end of his career. He is not a fast player. He never has been. A guy with great physical gifts. That's why his career is so impressive. Cody Barton is slow, man. We talk about it every week. Like, part of the problem here, I don't want to just make it be like, oh, these guys don't want to tackle. They don't want to play. Blah, blah, blah. The problem is the defense is slow. You know what I mean? And that's going to, when you have guys breaking off runs and getting into open space, that speed is going to hurt you too. So I don't want to make it totally, hey, these guys just don't want to tackle. But the problem is the back end of the Titans defense outside of Cedric Gray at linebacker is slow. And that's why they need more Kevin Winston going forward. Just somebody who isn't afraid to be physical and wants to hit somebody and has some speed and some juice to him. I want to see more Kevin Winston, because the guys in the back end for the Titans right now, they're just not fast enough.
B-Hop, was that technically your Titan down, or did you want to have something else? The floor is yours there.
No, I mean, there's a lot of Titan down. I mean, it just, I'm not trying to be funny. It just is the reality of it all. Hold on 1 second, because I don't know how I got my notes picked up. Oh, Titan down. Where do we start? Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, he was the problem. He was a problem, setting records. Daniel Jones. They put the Indiana in Daniel Jones this past weekend. Now, I understand the run game does set up the quarterback and his success, which has probably been the case for the Colts. The reason why they have the best record in football is because Jonathan Taylor is so successful. But 21 of 29 for 272 yards. Didn't we just defend a dude that was 21 of 23? You know what I mean? So why is it the quarterbacks are having such success against our secondary, against our defense, period? Injuries, leadership, competitiveness. Why fire Brian now? What are they doing that's different? Is Cam being developed, which was the reason why he was fired in the first place? None of these things are happening. So, there's a lot of blame to go around, but there's also a lot of things that we can point at and say, you know what? Hey, it is what it is, and it's nothing good.
Well, we have a lot of questions in the chat. We're going to get to them on our final segment of Titans Talk here on the Titans Squad Show. So keep it here. We'll answer them as best we can. All right, the NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com now to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, fellas, I wanted to get to some of the questions because there have been a lot of them in the chat. One of them asked if Brad Hopkins can come back and coach the O-line. You might need to bring that blank check for Brad Hopkins. I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to want there on that side. All right, as far as some of the questions, we had one earlier in the show when we were talking about the trade deadline, asking about Calvin Ridley, if it was the best thing for the Titans to trade him, considering he has been such a huge part of Cam Ward's development through the off season. What do you guys think about that question? I think it was Zachary's story with that, and I'll put it up on the chat on the screen if we can find it.
Hey, if somebody will take Calvin Ridley for a fourth or a third round pick, you got to do it. You got to do it. He hasn't been around a couple of weeks. He struggled to start the season. You know, the reason for keeping Calvin Ridley around was Cam Ward's development. You don't want to take too much away from Cam Ward, but Cam's played his 2 best games with basically no Calvin Ridley. You know, like it's just, what are we doing here? At this point, like I was saying earlier, Calvin Ridley is probably the one guy who could get you a 3rd or 4th round pick back. And the Titans will probably have to take on some of the money because he still has a pretty high salary for the year. So if the Titans eat the salary and send him away to another team, that'll only increase the value of the draft pick that they get back because they're going to eat money. I think that Calvin Ridley, there was some rumor out there, whispers, that Calvin Ridley could be a potential ad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. They've gone out and added Marquez Valdez-Scantling in free agency, so maybe that's completely off the table now. But yeah, I think that Calvin Ridley hasn't helped Cam Ward's development enough to prevent them from trading him if they get a good offer. And again, he's the player who would get you the best return draft pick wise. So I would trade Calvin Ridley in a second. We've seen that he isn't going to have a big enough positive impact on Cam Ward to justify keeping him around if they get a good offer. And they'll likely cut him in the offseason because he's set to make so much money, and they can save about $16 million to do it. You know what I mean? And go full youth movement here. So if you plan on cutting him after the season, I would trade him now.
Yeah, well, I'll put it this way. I mean, we know historically who Calvin Ridley has been. He just hasn't been that guy for this team. 290 total yards in 6 games, targeted 35 times, 16 receptions. I'm just not seeing this electric player that would all of a sudden, just want bring a market for any team to want to just grab him. If anything, if I were Calvin, I'd want to get healthy, get back on the field, show them that I have some sort of resemblance of the dude that, had a lot of potential and promise when he came here, because right now that ain't the guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if he were the person that could come in here and start making these explosive plays happen, get the chemistry right with Cam, and all of a sudden be his go-to guy despite coverage, despite anything else, then I can say, well, hey, look, this guy has some value to bring us other draft equity and kind of change the trajectory of this team. But I just don't see that right now. I was excited like everybody else. Man, we got Calvin Ridley. And now I'm looking at, if you just were to rip the number off of all the receivers, which one is Calvin Ridley? You see what I'm saying? As far as standing out and being a difference maker for this offense, I just haven't seen it consistently.
This one comes from Ray Thompson, 6305. In anyone's opinion, does any of the position coaches worth keeping around if the new coach wanted to keep them?
Bones Fossil. If the Titans do go out and hire Mike McCarthy, which is a name that they should be paying attention to for multiple reasons. Bones Fossil was the special teams coordinator under Mike McCarthy when they were in Dallas. There's a connection there, and I think it is inarguable that the Titans special teams is significantly better this year than they were last year. You give Bones Fossil an opportunity to come back, continue working with these guys. You keep him with a coach that has worked with him before, and Mike McCarthy, that would make sense. But other than that, the answer is no, and a lot of it is, coaches are going to hire who they want. It's not like every coach gets interviewed to stay on the staff afterwards. Like, it's not going to be the case. But I think you got to find connections with people more than look at the skill of how good they're coaching. I think Luke Stalker at tight end has gotten a lot of praise, and the tight ends have been pretty solid. I think that's a guy who could probably stick around too. There are some holdovers sometimes, but for me, Bones Fossil is the only logical one, because I think about any head coaching candidate in the NFL would respect him and want him on the staff.
I'm going to be biased. Luke Stalker was a guy that I coached before the combine for 6 weeks. He and I worked together at D1. And, I can say that I helped him learn how to pass block. And I really loved him as a player and as a coach. He understands exactly. Frank Bush, he was on our staff, but also as a former player as a Houston Oilers. Steven Jackson, defensive backs coach. He was another guy that, I understood from a very early on situation that these guys know how to communicate with players. You know what I mean? But, sometimes it's hard coaching a turd. I'm just going to say that. I'm not saying they're all turds. I'm just saying that sometimes at the end of the day, if you don't have talent that you're telling what to do, at the end of the day, it's still a turd. So, getting guys in to develop a roster has never been an easy situation, but you also got to understand your audience and know how to communicate with players to get the most out of them. And it just seems like somewhere there's a disconnect. So there are a few dudes that I believe in just because I understand who they were historically and how they can be difference makers because they had playing experience. And those are just a few names. But other than that, whoosh. They all could go.
Brad, you got to know football and you got to know people. That's the key with coaching. You got to know football and you got to know people. Yep. And they need somebody who desperately knows how to do both of those.
Real quick before we go, guys, what's one thing you're looking for as the Titans return home this weekend, face the Chargers?
It's another opportunity, man. It's another opportunity. Like I said earlier in the show, is it probable that they'll beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers? No. Is it possible that they could beat Justin Herbert and the Chargers? Yes, it's possible, because these guys put pants on like we put pants on. This is an NFL roster like that's an NFL roster. And these guys have any sort of pride about them. If they have any sort of anything that says, hey, look, we're going to defend our home turf, especially after this season has looked so inept, we can go out there and we can do stuff. In other words, what are the coaches saying to their players this week? Are they saying, well, hey, after we lose Sunday, maybe we can just do – no, they're not saying that. They're trying to tell them things that can get them the confidence and give them the ability to go out there and win a ball game. They're not going to waste this week just screwing off and saying, oh, woe is us. We've only won one game this year. We fired our head coach, all the things, right? They're going into this week trying to put together a game plan that says, hey, look, we can give ourselves a chance. And we'll see what it looks like on Sunday.
I want more youth. Let's get these players in here who are going to be around next year. Let's see more Gunnar Helm. Let's see more Chim DK. I'm still going to beg for them to bring up Xavier Restrepo instead of Mason Kinsey. Mason Kinsey is not good enough on special teams to act like he's a significant, better call up than Xavier Restrepo, who can actually help on offense. Let's see more Tajay Spears in the backfield instead of Tony Pollard. I think Pollard is a great trade option. Pollard is worn down from the workload that he had last year. He just doesn't have the same explosion. And on defense, at some point, can we try James Williams next to Cedric Gray and give Cody Barton a rest, even for a series? Just for a second, we're going to see more Marcus Harris at cornerback this week. He's been a disaster on special teams. Maybe he'll be better on defense. Let's see more Kevin Winston and less Quandre Diggs and less Xavier Woods and these guys who are just so slow and have no juice in the back end at all. I just want to see all the young players who could potentially have a future here, because the Titans need to figure out whether they do or not, and that's what really matters when these games are going to be difficult to win. So just continue the youth movement. That's all I really want to see.
I will say, Tyler, if there was an asteroid that was coming at Earth, I'd want to be near Mason Kinsey, because he's survived this long. So
he is a cockroach.
Indeed, he is. Yeah, for me, block out the noise. Coach gets fired midseason. Everyone's saying you stink. And now with the trade rumors and the trade deadline approaching, you saw McCreary go, and guys are feeling a little bit vulnerable right now. I just block out the noise and compete. And that's the biggest thing for me. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us here on the Titans Squad Show. We're here twice a week, every Tuesday and game day here live on YouTube. And of course, you can get us on audio wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and also check out Tyler's Locked On Titans show every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. But for now, I'm Julian Minutestone. That's Tyler Rowland and the legend Brad Hopkins. We'll see you guys next time.